Hello everybody and welcome to All Things AIRGUN. I am Donnie Reed and I have an announcement. Up until now, all of the content on my channel, the products that I have reviewed, have either been paid for by me at full price or sent to me by viewers, private viewers, not anybody associated with the airgun industry, not a manufacturer, not a vendor. Friends would send me things for review, things like that. But there has been no industry sponsorship on my channel in any way. No free items, no anything. That has changed, and I admit this to you freely and gladly. And I hope you will understand that I have not been paid for. I have not been bought. My words have not been written or scripted in any way. What you're going to see right now is an honest review of a product. And I'll tell you the story. I'm not a good liar. I'm too honest sometimes. You'll have to forgive me. But in this instance, I have already discussed this with the owner of the company, and he gives me his blessing to be as honest with you as I can possibly be, and that is what I will do. That is the only thing I will ever do on this channel. You have my word on that. But to get on with today's review, I have an obsession with accuracy, if you can't tell. I live and die for accurate shooting. That's what I'm about in the air. And how do you do that? How do you shoot accurately to begin with? It's easy. The easiest thing in the world. You do the exact same thing over and over. Do not change it. Do not vary in any way from what you do. And that's how you shoot accurately. And that's a generalization, of course, and a simplification. But it's dead serious in the end. If you expect repeated results, you must repeatedly do the same thing over and over. And this is to include your equipment. You cannot have variability within a system and expect consistency. You can't do that. It's not how it works. Therefore, to get more to the point, I'm sorry for being so long-winded, but to get to the point, I have started sorting pellets. Not just by appearance. I've always sorted them by appearance. You look through, bent, throw it away, bent, throw it away, mashed, throw it away, that kind of thing. Well, I've now started weighing them. I've sorted pellets by weight, and I can see a difference. I don't care if you can. I'm not here to argue that point with you. I'm telling you I can see a difference in that sorting alone. But I have yet to sort for size. But I wanted to. I have wanted to for a while. And I have also been aware of this product, the Pelletgage. www.pelletgage.com. I'll run that on the screen for you. It's the least I could do for Mr. Couples for what he's done for me. Jerry Couples owns Pelletgage, and I am nothing but impressed with the man and his product. I say that freely of my own volition, not because he gave me free stuff. And I'll get to the story here now. I first met Mr. Couples because he responded to one of my videos on this channel. I believe it was the Game-O Urban review. Good rifle. Get one of those. But I had mentioned to him, because he posts from Pelletgage, something that says Pelletgage on YouTube, I recognized it, and I told him, oh, I know you. I know your product. I've been wanting to get one of those. And, he said something, I'll be glad to sell you one, Well, the time came, I had the money, and I ordered this, the 22 caliber 5.5 millimeter pellet gauge. And I sent my order in. It's $50, $49.99 or $49.95, something like that, plus shipping. And the shipping is extremely reasonable. I think I paid $3 shipping. But after I sent the order in, I got an email from Jerry that said, "Hey, I saw your order for the pellet gauge." I said, "Yeah, oh yeah, I told you I wanted one. I finally had the money, so I ordered it." I said, "I would have ordered more. I wanted the 177 one too. I just didn't have the money right now, but I'll be getting one of those too." And he says, "Hang on." He says, "You know what?" He says, "I'll send you something. You just wait. I'll send you a package." I said, thank you, sir." And sure enough, I get the 177 pellet gauge that I told him I was going to buy. No charge. But this is my baby. This is a pellet gauge that he makes. This is a 4.5 millimeter, but this is special. If you notice, the standard pellet gauge has what I believe is a thermal etch on, you know, laser etch or whatever on the, for the numbers on here. You know, it's on there in some way. This one is a sticker. It's just got a sticker on there. It's not burnt in there. The difference between these two, and this one is not for sale. You can't buy this, I don't believe, even if you ask for it. There were not many of these made, and they were sent to a few people in the airgun industry, and I am privileged and honored to have this. The standard pellet gauge is graduated in 10 micron steps, 10 micron increments. The 4.5 pellet gauge here is graduated in 5 micron increments. This is more precise of a measurement than this, but as I understand it, this is also harder to make. You don't get as many sizes, obviously, if you have smaller steps and the same amount of holes. So this is a more specialized instrument that, again, I am honored to have this. I intend and will use, well, I'm going to use all of these. I guarantee it. They're instruments. These are measuring instruments. And that is an absolutely worthwhile endeavor, in my opinion. Again, today, I am not going to debate with you whether or not sorting pellets is a way to affect the outcome of hitting what you're shooting at, because there's a lot that goes into that. What I'm going to do today is, one, introduce you to the product. I'm going to assemble this one for you so that you know how. And I've got some pellets, just random stuff I grabbed here. Well, these two I grabbed on purpose. And this is some weight and appearance sorted JSB 18.13 grain 22s. I got a tin of Crossman Piranha 22s. And these are H&N Match Heavy 177 pellets. These are the Finale Match Heavy 177 pellets. These are supposed to be hand sorted quality. It says on here, hand sorted quality. And on this one it says selected quality. So, literally these are more money. I think there's a few dollar difference between these and these. And these Finales are supposed to be sorted ones of these, the Match Heavy. Well, I'm going to see, at least in the head size, if there's a difference in these two tins real quick for you. Again, I'm not going to do everything I can with these today. These are going to be used in the future for pellet reviews, and for, you know, obviously the sorted pellets will be used for testing rifles and things. But, you know, I'm sorting these pellets for me. for me. You know, I want sorted pellets. I want to shoot sorted pellets into I want the same pellet every single time. The same head size, the same weight, the same shape, everything about it I want identical to the last one and the next one. That is what I want. If you don't want that, I don't care. Don't buy one. I do. If you do, let's see about this, okay? So, first and foremost, again, this comes like this in a plastic bag, and there are several pieces. You have to assemble it yourself, but don't be scared. I'm going to show you how to do it. And there is a bit of a trick. You could do this wrong and assume something is wrong here when it was you. So we'll negate that by doing a little instruction. You get this bag, and inside is the pellet gauge and everything you need to put it together. And you also get the instructions and a little bit of information about the pellet gauge. And this alone is sufficient to figure out how to put this together, but again, I'll show you. I'm going to probably zoom. I'm going to move the camera and bring it in. Again, just as an introduction, this is what they look like when they're done. It's a little tabletop sort of device. And I might go ahead right now and make the distinction between a gauge, which is what this is. This is a measuring instrument, and a sizer. Whether that be a pellet sizer, or some people use reloading dies, things like that. That is not what this is. This is not intended to change your pellet in any way. That is not its intended use, and if you use it in that manner, I promise you, you can damage it and make the point of it go away by creating the damage. So, again, this is for measuring pellets, not sizing them. Do not force a pellet through this hole, any of these holes, with anything else. That is not what it's for. It's not going to work right to begin with. It's going to damage this thing more than likely, and you will feel real dumb when you figure out that's not what it's for. So don't do that. Don't do that. Now, I see how you could make the mistake, so forgive yourself, you know, if you've done it. But just so nobody else does, measuring tool, not a sizer, not for changing the pellet. But let's go ahead with the instruction on how to put this contraption together. Okay guys, this is the instructional video on how to put together your pellet gauge. Again, the pellet gauge ships with this instruction sheet, and it has a little bit of info about the pellet gauge. And this is sufficient. If you read this, you will have enough information to put this together correctly. But let's just do the video so that you have a visual tool as well as a written one. Now this is how the pellet gauge ships. A little plastic bag, a little bit tight, but it pops right out of there. Now this ships stacked in an order that does matter. So I suggest when you pull it out, you just leave it all stacked together. There's not one good reason to unstack this. So I would suggest pull it out just like this and sit it down and don't mix it up. If you do, it's not a giant deal. The top plate obviously has a big hole in the middle of it. The guide plate, this is what I'm calling the guide plate, I don't know if that's actually what it's called, goes on top, and it's plastic, and it has pellet gauge insignia and caliber etched into it, so it's pretty obvious. And now the actual sheet of the gauge, the metal part, the actual gauge itself, and then the back is another, I believe, exact copy of the top bezel. But again, that's how it stacks, so if you mess it up, here you go. That's how you put it back together. There we go. It's all stacked back in its orientation. And if you notice, there are some scallops cut in the bezel, and that is on purpose. There's a good reason for that, and we'll get to that in a minute here. Now inside is another bag with the hardware. Now, you do not need a single tool to assemble your pellet gauge. In fact, it is recommended you do not use a tool, and we won't. We will not use any tools for this. You will get 4 screws, 4 washers, and 4 really long nuts that turn into table legs like magic. Now the order here is screw, washer, and then you just kind of want to roughly align the holes here and put your screw right in like that. So again, the washers go on the top. It goes in like that. No washer on the bottom. And you can just take one of your nuts and very loosely thread it on. Do not tighten it completely yet. You'll just have to unloosen it in a minute anyway. But anyway, that is the order of operations here. In case you missed that, it goes screw, washer, and then through the pellet gauge. And we very loosely spin on our nut, our leg. However you choose to describe it is okay with me. I clipped my fingernails today. A little hard to grab them washers. And if you choose, you can stick these all through and then put the nuts on if you find that's more efficient. But you can also drop your screws, so be careful. But if you do drop them, you can just rewind and you'll know how they go back together again. So now we have a loosely assembled pellet gauge, but you are not done, because there are layers on here that can conflict. They can create a blockage on your pellet gauge. So you must align these. Now don't be scared. Don't be scared. That's what these little scallops are for. Remember those? Now all we have to do is grab it relatively by a scallop, front and or back, and what you want to make sure of is that nothing is interfering with the hole in the metal gauge. So if there's any plastic blocking that metal gauge, then you're going to have an impediment, and you can't have that. You want the pellets to just easily drop through there. So basically you want to center the gauge hole in the guide plate's hole, because the guide plate's hole is larger than the gauge hole. And you can easily, now I have some weird lights going on here, but you can easily line this up by sight, and then all you do is start tightening your legs slowly. Check it, make sure that looks good to me. You'll want to see the metal shining through the hole in the plastic, that's all. And just by hand, you know, use a little pressure, push it with your finger or something on the screw head, and turn the leg, the nut, and it will tighten up sufficiently by hand. You do not need to use a tool. If you do say to yourself, well, I'll just get me a screwdriver and a wrench and tighten this sucker good, there is an extremely likely chance that you will bust this plastic. So I would recommend not doing that. By hand is sufficient. And there you have a fully assembled pellet gauge. Go sort some pellets, guys. Okay, guys. I moved the camera again. We have our fully assembled pellet gauges here. And now let's get on with the review of this product. And this is going to be very simple. Very simple. This thing does one and only one thing. There is no such thing in the universe as a perfect circle. That's just how it is. Now, there's some hypotheses about an event horizon being a perfect circle, but the quantum effects around the event horizon would probably prevent that, actually. Stephen Hawking was a big proponent of that, but there's just no perfect circle. Having said that, the circles cut in this pellet gauge are about as close as you can get to a perfect circle. I cannot reveal how these are made, and I won't, so don't ask. But these are literally about as close as you're going to get to a perfect circle in calibrated steps that you can get. And that's the whole point here, is to have a perfect circle in calibrated steps so that you can take a pellet, which is supposed to be perfectly circular, and check it first and foremost to see if that is true. If a pellet is not circular enough, you know, we won't say perfect. We'll use the word perfect, but with the caveat that there is no such thing. We're using the term incorrectly, but it's the closest and best one we have for simplicity. So if this pellet is not perfectly circular, it shouldn't go through that hole. And that is a legitimate defect that I have personally seen in pellets, as they aren't round. They're smashed and oval in some fashion, elliptical in some way, or just plain old deformed, you know? Those pellets should not go through that hole, so this contraption should sort out those pellets right off the bat. Secondly, and equally as important, it should tell you if two pellets are the same size or not. What that size is nearly irrelevant. All that matters is if they're the same or not. Now, I know that these are checked with gauge pins. Gauge, it's not a block, but it's a gauge for checking round holes. And these are extremely, extremely precise instruments. And they are graduated in increments that are sufficient to check whether or not these holes are accurate. And they are. These are all checked before they're ever shipped anywhere. And so what we have here to find out whether or not this product does what it says are pellets. That's all we need, is some pellets. Now, let's start, let's use the 20, yeah, let's use the 22. Okay, let's move these things a little bit here. We'll start with our Crossman Piranhas. This is a relatively new tin. I think I've shot 10 out of here, and I was not impressed at 50 yards, but we'll get to the review of the pellets another day. But here we go. We have a pellet. Now, the objective here is to find a hole that it will not go through next to a hole that it will go through. And if the pellet won't go through the hole, now let's take this pellet and we'll start with our 5.48 millimeter hole and drop it in there. This pellet will not go through that hole, so it must be larger than that hole, right? And that says 5.48. So we'll just take it at face value that that's what it is. 5.48, and this won't go through, so it must be bigger than 5.48. So now we'll try 5.49. Yep, won't go through that one either. Must be bigger. And we keep going. 5.50, nope. 5.51, nope. 5.52, no. 5.53, no. 5.54, yes. Did you see that? The pellet fell through the gauge, or I'm sorry, fell through the guide plate and into the gauge. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's now protruding through the bottom of the gauge. The head of this pellet went through, and it was then caught by the skirt. That is precisely what should happen. The skirt should always be bigger than the head of the pellet. Now, we went to 5.53 and it did not go through, and it did go through 5.54. So in reality, if these listed measurements are correct, and I have every reason to believe they are, this head diameter of this particular pellet is somewhere between 5.53 millimeter and 5.54 millimeter. So we have to now, for our own sake of classification, pick one of these numbers to call this pellet's head size, sized by this gauge. And if you read the information that came with the Pelletgage, there's a part on here where Jerry himself suggests, let me just read his sentence. Let me see here. Okay. He goes on about how to use it, and then he says, let's all agree we will consider the size of the pellet to be the smallest diameter aperture that the pellet will clear. Now, this pellet did clear the 5.54 millimeter hole. It did not clear the 5.53 millimeter hole. Therefore, I'm going to call this pellet a 5.54 millimeter, even though in reality, if that is what size that hole is, that's not what size that head is. The head's a little smaller than 5.54. But just so we're all on the same page, we're going to call this 5.54. Okay, now we just pop our pellet back up out of there, and we have a sorted pellet, or at least we have a pellet we know what size it is. Okay, so now let's get another one, and we'll start around the same holes we were at before. Start with 5.53. Nope. 5.54. No. Do you see that? This pellet does not go through the 5.54 hole. Okay, we'll put him right here. Now let's go back to our pellet that did go through the 5.54 hole. Oops. And there it goes. Now I did have to finagle that a little bit, so for just for the sake of making sure we're right, let's take that other pellet. Try again, 5.54. No matter what I do to this pellet, it won't go through that hole. So these two pellets are not the same. You just saw that, right? So that means this product works correctly. It just told me there's a difference between these two pellets, and that is precisely what it is supposed to do. I am absolutely thrilled. Now, you might say, okay, you have to check every hole. Well, all right, let's keep going, see if we can find a different size. We'll start 5.54 again. Oh, it does go through. But is it smaller than that? We'll see. 5.53. Oh, it went through that one too, so it's even smaller than that. So let's go 5.52. There you go. 5.52. It won't go through that hole. So this pellet is 5.53. Is that, yep, 5.53. So here we have three different size pellets. I just grabbed three pellets out of this tin of Crosman Piranhas, and they all have a different head size. Now, that says what it says about the Crosman Piranha pellets, but we're not reviewing the pellets. We're reviewing the Pelletgage. And the Pelletgage has already done what it is supposed to do. I really needn't go any further and improving whether or not this one works. But, okay, let's try the 177s. Now, here is the 177, the standard 10 micron incremented 177 gauge, not the 5 micron special one. Now let's start with our match heavy. And these are good pellets. I have shot both of these with outstanding success. But is there a difference? Yes. But let's just go ahead here. You already know we got a pellet. We'll start sticking it in holes and see which one it goes through. Start 4.52. No. 4.53. Yes. 4.53. Okay. 4.53. Let's remember that. And we'll put it. Yeah, we'll put it right there. Hope you can see it. Okay, 453. Let's try this one. It went through 453. Will it go through 452? No. These two pellets are the same head size according to this gauge. 453. Yes. 452. No. Wow. These are three the same size right off the bat. Okay, 453. Yes. 452. No. Wow. 4 out of 4. All the same size. That's according to this gauge. But this is 10 micron increments. So, just for the sake of checking the 4.5 gauge, the special one, the 5 micron incremented gauge, let's take these same 4 pellets and see if they are indeed the same size. Now, what did we say it was? 4.53. Oh crap, this one doesn't go up that. Wait, 4.9. Oh yeah, this one only goes to 525. Well, let's see here. Does this go through 525? Yes, this went through 4.525. Okay, well how about 4.520? 5 microns smaller. Will it go through there? No. It will. Oh, yes it will. Yes it will. Now, 4.515. Will it go through there? No. Okay, so this is 4.520 according to this one. Now let's take another one and try the same hole. 4.520. No. No, it's bigger. 4.525. Yep. There is a 5 micron difference between these two pellets. So, now I said before, and I'll say it again, I don't care what these numbers say. It is very, very close. And obviously this one is finer than these, so you will get a different number, and that's completely acceptable. These were between 452 and 453, according to this gauge here, and between 4.525 and 520 between these two. So that's perfectly understandable and acceptable. And it does lend credence to the fact that these are calibrated to the numbers that it says. So, but again, I just took 4 pellets and they were the same size according to this, and they are different sizes according to this. So, there you have it. I literally needn't go any farther. These pellet gauges do what they say they will do. And what is it they do? Precisely what I've showed you. They size your pellets. They do not, they do not size your pellets. Woo! They sort your pellets by size. They measure. These are measuring instruments for measuring your pellets and seeing which ones are the same and which ones are not. And as you can see, the product does work. I am completely satisfied with this product because of the product, not because it was given to me. I cannot recommend this highly enough as an instrument that does what it says. Now, does the sorting affect your accuracy in the end? We'll cover that in later videos. But there you have it, the pellet gauge, www.pelletgage.com. I highly recommend you get one of these if you care about the pellets going through your rifle that much, you know. Some people don't care. This you wouldn't be watching this anyway if you didn't care. So if you do, there's a perfect demonstration of the efficacy of the product. These pellets are different sizes. These piranhas are probably all different sizes, but we'll get to that in another video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.